of movement of goods in different geographies, right? As the company is doing transactions between the countries of import export, so it has to follow bunch of rules and regulations as per the governing authority to control this trade and then flow that trade of goods with the seamless. So there are like bunch of stakeholders who would be involved to deal in day-to-day operations. So to manage all those stakeholders, you would be like having the proper mechanism in the GTM application. Like you will be dealing with vendors, customers, bank authorities, as well as logistics service providers and freight forwarders and custom brokers. So like that, you end up with like communicating with a lot of stakeholders in your day-to-day process, right? So for that, the companies are required to maintain their accuracy and then presence is like how good they are, because if you are dealing with customers any are like having bankrupt and all, it would be revenue loss for you as well as the reputation for your company, where you will end up with like some sort of legal issues, right? So that's the reason like it's mandatory to have the system in place to streamline your screening processes for your parties across. And also you will end up with having like a bunch of laws and regulations specific to countries, right? Like today, like depending upon geopolitical issues, every country is putting like some sanctions or some sort of rules, some sort of tariff changes. These are keep on evolving, right? So to ensure what kind of rules and regulations business from one country to another country, right? So certain products are banning also, like where you can't do trade with those products, right? So all those laws, rules with the different regulation authorities. So you could define those rules in the system. So that system will tell how around your shipping transactions when you do, and you are required to produce for customs the different documents, right? Like certificate of origin, commercial invoice, bill of lading, right? So all these different kind of documents would be there. So depending upon country to country and then the customs need, so we are required to produce these documents. So GTM is having the document management, wherein you can write up your documents with BA publisher reports, which allows you to build your reports and then generate those documents for your subsequent shipping process. So you can build this like,
What are those documents? It means certification of all the what kind of documents are there?
see, it is basically like your what do you say, the shipping documents. When you are doing the custom filing, you are required to produce these documents, like which country this product has been manufactured, right? And what are the components inside that particular item manufacture, right? So those sort of the country where you are manufacturing that, you should have some sort of license, right? If you are manufacturing certain materials, right? So then that documents are produced from your GTM trade transaction perspective. So there are like
Like
the way we
commercial
have,
invoice, certification of origin, that's not
yeah.
really
So, and then even if you do like any dangerous goods, you should have like DG good certificate authorization. Like you are having the authorization to manufacture or sell those products, because those would be having like hazardous when you deal with the shipping process, right? You should ensure that you are following the protocols of your shipping process, right? It's not going to harm to any of the public when it is in the shipping process, right? So those kind of the key documents would be produced from GTM application. Yeah, so it's more basically like what you will have. You will be having like some sort of generic template. So based on that template, GTM is going to generate through your BA publisher. So you might have heard like BA publisher is the reporting tool which is available in OTM GTM. So that can be used to produce these documents as required. So it could be like any kind of document depending upon the shipping and then compliance process it's required, because that also varies from country to country. So the key features, if you see that, so it's basically like global trade content upload. What it does mean, so there are like the restricted parties which I was telling in the demonstration, right? In that, what you see like all the classification codes, like be it would be HTS code or ACCN codes or all these product classification codes as a what do you say masters are maintained in this Descartes application, right? So that would have out of the box integration with GTM. So you would require those credentials for subscription of that data. So once you have that, you configure one external system in GTM and schedule that. So it's going to download that data to GTM application at the interval of every day overnight. So same way, the restricted party screening also, where like you get the product classification codes as well as denied party list, because these the agencies who would be doing this review of customers or companies, right? So depending upon their bankrupt or financial status, those would be registering in that database of Descartes. Like any client is blacklisted or they are in bankrupt, right? So those would be registered in that Descartes system by global, right? There will be different agencies who will be publishing that data. So as a Descartes, they manage it as a repository centralized, and then that will share data with different application whoever is required. So likewise, Oracle have this kind of out of the box integration with Descartes for this GTM application, where you can subscribe and get that data for your GTM application.
Mhm.
So for that also, like you need to specify in GTM what kind of data I want to get it from them, depending upon your business need. So there is a mechanism like for HS codes also, there are different country specific HS codes, right? So I'll show that in system like what and all we configure to sync that data.
So the price also varies, depends on the amount of data you need,
Yes,
the
yes,
calculation
yes.
charge you need, right?
Yeah, that subscription would be vary, but it will be like very minimal because that's just the data, right? Nothing we are doing any business logics on that. It's just like
Mm,
data share they are doing. And then this supports you like as you have your sales orders or deliveries as per your day-to-day shipping process. It allows you to do like accurate screening against your parties what you have, be it would be shipper or consignee or ultimate consignee. So based on that, system is making a provision to do screening of parties.
Does this screening happen at the order release creation or the shipment?
So two levels are there. For the if you are using both OTM GTM, how it works the flow, you get the sales order as a order release, right? And then order release against it is going to create the trade transaction. So there is a provision in the application directly from order release you can create the GTM trade transaction, right? And then at the trade transaction level screening will happen and put your order release on status or pass depending upon the rules are running, and then that status will send back to your EBS system. So this is going to happen before your planning.
Mm.
Okay, that's where you
As
have
soon
the
as order
control.
release, as soon as order release got clear.
Yes, so that is where you are going to ensure that before your pick, pack, and shipping process
Okay,
confirmed.
you put it on hold at that point, you say.
Yes. So then the other
Not
level
earlier
is like
process,
once your
not
shipment
earlier,
is
right?
created, yeah. So
Or
other
it could
point
be done
is
earlier stuff.
correct. So once your shipment created, right, again there also it would happen the screening right at the shipment level. So that is basically once your shipment is created and you are giving it to tendering and then carrier is picking up, right? That's a final it's going to execute it, right? So there also once the shipment is created before tendering to service provider, there also the check will happen. That's more on the your delivery perspective because you do ship confirm based on the delivery, right? You may have bunch of orders, but while you are doing the ship confirm, you do the ship confirm against the delivery, right? Or the trip in EBS in
Mm,
WMS terminology we talk about.
mm.
Yeah. So there are two levels. Or if you are using GTM standalone, you can integrate directly the sales order to GTM. The trade transaction is the element, and then do the screening, and then the status response of hold or release. It will be sent directly on your trade
Okay, so
transaction.
that they doesn't even create any order release or anything, right? They just call GTM, send the
Correct.
information, and then GTM responds with the order issues it is, right?
Correct. Yeah. So like you might have seen, like for many of Oracle to Oracle application, there are like out of the box integrations available as a
Mm.
adapters. So likewise here GTM is also having for EBS application as out of the box integrations, which can be used to build the integrations between the systems.
Okay.
And there is a provision also like the customs declaration in this application GTM, where like you are doing bunch of orders, right, and which are going to specific country for customer. So those orders are consolidated into one declaration, which is nothing but shipment. We call it out in GTM terminology, and then you can do the custom filing against that, where you are putting multiple quantity together, multiple items, and then you do the customs filing.
Okay. Can you repeat that? Okay.
Sorry.
Can you repeat that? Yeah, previous one. Yeah, yeah. Customs file.
Yeah, I'm saying that your multiple sales orders when you are shipping it to customer, right? So the group of those orders would be done as a declaration, which is the another object, and then against that declaration you do the custom filing, so that you are going to like give the one declaration file to customs, and then they will give you the authority for execution process, right, saying that you are already declared this for customs for the goods which you are required to declaration for customs authority, because the
So what is
products,
declaration? So declaration is like, like a option, yes, sir, like
it's
order
like
release kind of a thing?
it's a shipment kind of thing basically, like the way you are doing in OTM, create a bulk plan for multiple orders, one shipment, right? So same way here also, based on your attributes of ship to party and then item, you can create one single declaration for multiple trade transactions. So it's basically for your grouping of transactions into one declaration, and then that declaration you are going to do with customs basically. So declaration is nothing but the object in the GTM terminology. Like when you are doing the security checks in the airport, right? So you have to declare any items you are carrying, right? Any hazardous or you are taking up certain products. So you are required to declare stating that these are the products which I am carrying,
Mm.
right? So similar kind of thing you are required to do with customs authority also when you do this cross-border transactions. Because I'm shipping out these products which are like uh, the chemicals or the hazardous goods, or like the products which I'm manufacturing by my country, right? So those I'm required to declare it, so that government is aware you are doing that for that. So based on these declarations only, you are going to do the duty taxes payment, because
Because
certain products
right,
you
one
can,
item also, right? It can be one or multiple, right?
yeah, yeah,
One
it
or
could be one or multiple, yeah. So the key benefits by implementing this GTM, what customers will get. So they will have like seamless cash flow, which means that they will not get into like you will not end up with any of the legal issues, like you might have seen earlier. Some of the companies were penalized because of some ex legal activities, they didn't follow the rules, right? So in those cases is, by having proper your system for your all compliance process, you are ensuring that you are not getting into those kind of risks. And the way system works, you have like bunch of things where you could do automations. Like the moment you get the sales order, system will does the screening to ensure that all the parties are okay, or depending upon the compliance rules stating that like I'm required the license for certain products to ship, as well as the particular item classification code, like the HS code of that particular product is required to print it on the documents, right? So these are different checks which are going to done, that could be done automatically, like by creating the automation agents which does auto screening and then status updates on the transactions and send that status updates back to your ERP system, right? So those things are pretty configurable. And then you will have like complete data visibility, who is doing what documents are required, what kind of statuses exist, right? All that information you can manage in single application. And this way, like, you are not losing your productivity and efficiency without having any issues, right? So that you ensure all your transactions at one place and then have your integrated mechanism with your respective systems. So that is the key benefit by using GTM. It's more like it talks specifically in the compliance perspective. Nothing like your planning or execution or nothing. So more from compliance to have your documents as well as your the rules which are required for that particular country to follow, right? So and the custom filing also. So those are the pretty key things which manages by this GTM. I think this one we already talked in the demo session. So this is where we were telling like classifying of products. So depending upon your nature of the item or product, you are required to have your classification codes. The for same product, depending upon the country where you are doing like transport, import of export. So you are required to produce those classification codes. We'll see in the system like how we do and what we do, and also like screening of parties. So for screening of parties also, like, there are a bunch of rules basically, like what percentage of my company name is matching with the denied party, then I'm required to do screening, right? And then the like license needs, right, as well as the producing of the documents and then the custom filings, right? All these things are managed under this GTM application. So this is also like again your entry-in process where it comes into the picture, which we talked. So you might have seen already you are working on this OTM application, right? So typical login for this, where you have this username and mechanism to log in. Like, so whenever client purchases this application, the cloud application, so they will receive the DBA credentials from client side. So then they would create one domain, or they will share the credentials with the IT consulting partner, whoever is implementing this project. So with that, they will be logging in, right? So that would be typically your DBA role, basically, from which typically you create the domain as a first step.
Mhm.
So this is like typical navigation for your GTM. If you see, you have like the trade compliance management, trade master data, restricted party workbench, license management, like that. Like there are a bunch of icons available on the GTM side. So to give the
But
architecture of,
it's transportation fees mostly federal, right?
so
Transportation global.
your voice is coming from far. I think can't able to.
You can hear me? Hello?
Yeah, yeah.
Think the transportation fee, like FTI, there is also, you said there is trading payment.
Yeah, so for here, GTM, there is like GTA basically,
Okay.
Global Trade Intelligence. Somehow your voice is not clear actually.
I'm saying I can't see that trade in payments.
Yeah, so typically like that, the what do you say, reporting is not installed on this actually. The reporting server is not enabled, so like you'll not be able to see that. Uh, but yeah, that's again like part of the way we have your FTA, right? So that's
Yeah.
all. So to give that GTM architecture, right? It's like a three-layer architecture. Basically, it will have like a web server, app server, and database server. So all your the core presentation layer, right, which is resides on your web server, which is basically like your HTML, XSL, right? All those things are residing under your web server, and then you have your application server, wherein all your integrations and business logics, right? The class files which are taking care of algorithms and all. So those defined under this application server. And then database server is basically wherein you have the schemas in which the data residing, right? So that's where you have the database tag. So typically the database would be used like the Oracle database, and then this web uh, application servers is like WebLogic, right? And then web server, it's like Apache or Tomcat, that are the ones which is being used web server, or the OHS servers, Oracle HTTP servers.
Mhm. Okay. This is same as OTM also, right? Same thing.
Yeah, yeah, no difference. It's actually same architecture. So this web server typically controls your like the UI part, right, which is connecting to application server, right? And then your application server is controlling all your business logics by connecting to your web server and database, right? So the way how it works, the moment you clicked on URL, you are going to enter that username and password, right? So that is going to connect with your database and get the credentials what are being stored in your database, and then pass on by your application server, right? So that's how these three are connected each other: web, app, and DB.
Okay.
So the first thing is basically like the domains. So these domains are basically to keep your secure data separately and based on your company hierarchy or the business hierarchy to define your organization structure. So this domain allow you to configure, is it like multi domain architecture or single domain in which you are going to create the transactions, right? So based on that, it's going to define this domain, how it is going to create it in the GTM application. So this domain setup, it would be done only by the users who have the DBA access. They can create these domains, and you can create like as many as parent-child domains from your DBA account by creating these domains. So in the system, I mean, there are some default domains which available like guest. That is like, I mean, as part of this OTM GTM application, you got like these domains as a default. So guest is one domain which is given for sample data to do any sort of POCs or something. And same way, Serpro is basically to collaborate with your transport companies. So for them to give access through this Serpro domain. And public is basically wherein you have all the global data like unit of measurements, currencies, whatever you are part of with the Oracle application, right? Which was given by Oracle application. So those data resides in your public domain. And then EBS and even also there are like other domains which were given, right? So these are just for a reference. Those were given into the application. We don't be using as such these domains except this the Serpro domain. So let me just make it one domain creation and then keep that for right. If you see the moment if I log in, you see here what is the role I have, right? And then here you see the software version, and then what is the database also.
Okay.
So based on this, you will be able to find out what version of application it is. So here is where like under configuration, domain management, right? Here you have like add domain. So here I'm just giving it as a demo, right? And then here the default user role, it would be like admin. Okay. So when you create it like a reference domain, like there is a concept of you want to create it as a light domain by referencing it to some of the other domains. So in that case, you could choose these domains, right? And then you can make use of that reference domain. So what is the use of this reference domain is basically, so typically what happens when you create any domain, it will create its own status, the other stuffs, right? Wherein you don't want to create in this individual domain, but you want to refer it from the original parent domain, right? So in that case, you can make use of this as a light domain, right? And then you can refer it to any of the domain which is already exist. So that what it does, the first status and all, it would be referencing to your original domain. Or you want to create this domain by referencing with the copy of existing one, right? So then by making use of this copy from domain, it copies the data from that particular domain to this domain.
So what does it do? What does it do? What does it refer to? What reference does it refer?
Sorry, Sridhar.
The reference domain, there is reference domain, right? What is that? What is the
See,
reference domain?
typically, what you do in your, as in typically this in the OTM case, I have like my main sites where they are using OTM extensively in terms of all your bulk plans and all. But there
Hmm.
are some sites which are like very lightweight, wherein those are like not use the bulk plan and all. It would be like simple. What do you say, dropship orders, you call it out, right? It will simply come and it has to plan with whatever the carrier or ship method sent by EBS and send it back. There is no nothing as such detailed bulk plan and all, right? So in those
Hmm.
cases I don't need a domain as a standalone domain. That means I don't require all these business number rules or the statuses and all to be created in that particular domain. What it does, it will refer information of this particular domain whenever creating the any of the transactions, right? Like order is creating, so for that particular order your status would refer to your the reference domain what you are using.
Hmm. Hmm.
In that case this reference domain would be, but it would be like very light usage if I see by any companies implementing.
Okay, okay.
Because
Very few
if I'm
companies, right?
implementing, I always use it as a standalone domain. I won't make use of light domain. But I've seen in one of the client where they have like around 200 business units, so they created like 200 domains in the OTM application, but they don't want all to be run it as a individual domains. They want to have some light domains which is nothing but they don't have much functions in those lightweight domains, and it will refer to your original parent domain. So that purpose it would be used this the light domain. Okay, and just if you enter this uh, domain name, right, then okay, I need to enter it as a password, and then click on add domain. And what is happening? So the moment click on add domain, so it takes like a couple of seconds and it will create that domain. So while doing this domain creation, it copy and create all those status, business numbers, right? All those components will create automatically in that particular domain. So after I create domain, if I go to my user manager, so there would be like one default user account which would be created with this admin.
Okay.
So even with this also, now I would be able to log in. Whereas in the cloud, this is not allowed actually. These accounts are not made for login. So you have to create one user itself. See?
Don't have cloud in this? In the GTM, we don't, you guys don't have cloud?
Yeah, this application we don't have cloud actually. So this is like similar version of cloud usage because this is the latest of in on-premise, which is equivalent of cloud. Just that you may see minor differences in the latest version of GTM application. So here, if you see, these are the ones which are there as a modules. From here it starts: classification, restricted party, compliance, customs, landed cost, transactions, master data. So these are the ones which are exist as part of your this one. So you can see from here what are all menus are there for this user, right? So under here view user access, here is what you see. So this is the GTM admin menu basically. So this is the admin menu of OTM, and this is of ask Oracle menu. This is of help menu. So this comprises of four menus which are there. So if you see here under this, it's having all those GTM related stuff. Yeah, so these are pretty like configurable what menus to provide, what not to provide, and all right. Even for a user like they are implementing only GTM, right? So then they don't need of giving all the menus, right? So it can be configured by admin itself what menus are required to configure.
Okay.
So these are the key things actually which you can see under public domain. There are a bunch of things which you can configurable, like the properties, branding, even this data content download, and like GTM remarks and reference number to configure, right? So all those things are part of this public domain which available, right? So by default, this public domain will have the read write access of your custom domain, what you have. So in your client domain, you are configuring like users, user roles, menus, agent workflows, and all right, and also the master's information. So all these things are configurable under your client domain. So by default, this public domain will have read write access to all the domains because this is a super domain, and these domains will not have access to reverse way, the public.
Okay.
It will have just the read access.